NPR's Best of 2017? 16? 16. This has been part of NPR's Best of 2016. It's an indie published book by a Filipino author. What you need to know about this is she is a geeky marine science grad student. And he is a tattooed artist cafe owner. So it's opposites in a way. And here's our final reading. Guys, gotta get ready for that night because you're gonna want this one. Beginner's Guide, Love and Other Chemical Reactions.
By Reyes.
Given the nature of our conversation, it was only logical that as we talked, our heads leaned close to each other. Nero rested his arm on the backrest of my seat, and I could feel the heat of the skin behind my neck. Repeated exposure to stimulus, in theory, habituates your brain so you no longer respond to it. It's a form of non-associative learning, wherein cues are learned or ignored without any association to reward or punishment. It's simply ignoring that which does not affect you. But I must not have been exposed enough, because even after all of this time, looking at Nero's face still affected me. So, how do you go about initiating that? I asked.
Kissing's good. And a lot of touching.
Like how?
What?
I studied my breathing. Show me. Nero licked his lips. His eyes darted across the room, down the balcony, and into the first floor. Other than his two-person crew and the three oblivious students tucked into their respective corners, the cafe was empty this Sunday. His fingers on my nape tickled the edge of my hair.
Are you sure?
I nodded.
I need you to say yes out loud.
Yes, I breathed. Out loud. I thought he was going to kiss me, but he tightened his fingers around my hair and he pressed his nose under my ear. His other hand was on my bare knee.
You're so weird.
Laughter might not have been appropriate in this context, but I couldn't help it. But the laugh was replaced by a gasp when the hand on my knee skimmed up my thigh and then his lips covered mine. I imagined that he kept a lab notebook of his own, as he had no difficulty replicating the results of last night's kiss. No one ever tells you what to do with your hands or your nose, but as it turns out, they move and find their place on their own accord. What I did next was a product of my baser instincts, overpowering higher thought, the result of a cocktail of neurotransmitters orchestrating a cascade of chemical reactions, setting my body on fire. It started with gravity. Two bodies, directly drawn to each other with a force directly proportional to how hard they fall, and inversely proportional to the distance between them. And I couldn't get close enough. My hands were clutching his shirt, and his hands were everywhere, my hair, my neck, my ribcage, but on my hips. I put my arms around him, and he helped me off his seat and onto his lap. What follows are the laws of motion. First, a body at rest will remain at rest until a force acts upon it. Nero sat me astride him, and hands under my knees, he dragged me closer to his body. My head rolled backward, and he raked his teeth on my neck. The persistent ache between my legs escalated into a sweet torture, throbbing violently from inside my skin. He thrust himself against me, and I felt his response against my inner thigh. Second, acceleration. I pushed back against him, wanting to feel more of Nero on my skin. In principle, I understood the nature of the situation, and I understood the urge and the evolutionary need to fulfill that urge. What I couldn't seem to wrap my head around was the urgency taking over my better sense. Nero.
Yeah?
My belly tightened in response. What happens next? His fingers ghosted against the hem of my skirt. He teased the skin underneath.
Are you sure?
Yes, I breathed. Yes. Out loud. Nero stood up, lifting me with him. My back hit the table, and if not for him holding me up against him with his thigh wrapped around my legs, I would have fallen into a mess on the ground. Ow,
Sorry.
he said in between kisses. My palms wandered down his chest, felt the ridges of his abs through my shirt, and I imagined lifting his shirt and touching his bare skin. Your shirt is in the way. He chuckled into my ear, and I felt it blaze a path down my spine. He cupped my jaw.
Slow down.
Walk me through. Instinctively, my legs wrapped around his waist. Third, for every action, an equal and opposite reaction. I kissed him, he kissed me back, and the kisses were slow, but hard and deep, hot. He pushed, I pushed back, I pulled, he pulled back. His hands were anchored on my hips between my legs. I was hot and slick.
What do you want?
He pulled my hips tighter against him. Everything. He groaned.
Are you sure?
My face burned. Oh, I leaned back into put space between us. Oh, I didn't realize.
Realize what?
His fingertips carefully touched my face as he peered into my eyes.
What is it?
I gestured from me to him. Forward reaction, but I didn't consider the reverse reaction. That might have been inaccurate, but I was too overstimulated to think straight. He pressed his forehead against mine, my snout tingled.
No problems with a reverse reaction. I'm just making sure you know what you're doing, because this is, as you say, an irreversible reaction. We can take it back.
I touched the tip of my nose against his. I'm sure. I want you to show me.
Trust me. I can show you the things. Starting with this.
That was Beginner's Guide, Love and Other Chemical Reactions.
By 6 de los Reyes.